you know he'll help you understand? Did you know always a right hand man? Did you know he's gonna make it clear? Did you know? Come on, listen here. Did you know?
Welcome to the Did You Know Show. My name is Brian Green, and today's show is brought to you by Always Best Care Senior Services. Today, we have the pleasure of spotlighting PCA. PCA stands for the Philadelphia Corporation of Aging, and my guest today is the one and only, my friend, Dr. Najja Orr, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Philadelphia Corporation for Aging. Dr. Orr assumed the role of PCA's President and CEO in 2020, and services to Philadelphia's older adults had to quickly adapt during the COVID-19 pandemic, and what a time that was. This included delivering more than 3 million meals to older Philadelphians through home-delivered and community-based meal programs. Prior to coming to PCA, Orr worked for, they said Orr, he's Najja to me.
That's right.
Prior to coming to PCA, Najja worked for the Bucks County Area and Aging since 2002 and served as that agency's director until 2011. In 2017, he joined PCA as the Chief Strategy Officer, leading the agency's planning department. Or Najja to me. Najja has served on several boards during his tenure in the aging field, including chair of the Pennsylvania Department of Aging Cultural Diversity Advisory Council and board secretary and Southeast Regional representation for the Pennsylvania Association for the Area and Agings. Najja was recently selected as one of the 2022 not-for-profit Power 100 honorees by City and State of Pennsylvania. I'm not surprised. Najja received a doctorate from Temple, TU, in 2022. He also holds a master's degree in business administration from Drexel University and a bachelor's degree in psychology from Morehouse College. Morehouse, I went to Virginia State, so, tease him about that later. In addition to being a dedicated advocate for older adults, Najja is also a dedicated husband and father of 4 and a Sixers fan. Without further ado, my friend, my fellow community servant leader, Najja Orr. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
I know your dance card fills up, so we'll get right to it. For the people that are not familiar with the Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, can you tell us a little bit about the organization?
I sure can. So, as you mentioned, our name, PCA, Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, we are one of 52 area agencies on aging in the state of Pennsylvania. You say, what's an area agency on aging?
Mm-hmm.
So what we typically do across the state is 3 paths that we generally follow. That first path is making sure we do our part to ensure people stay connected to the community. That's providing services like the senior centers, making sure people have an opportunity for volunteerism, making sure we connect people to health and wellness programs, things like that. So that's that first path. That middle path is where we send our staff out in the field to complete comprehensive assessments, really tailoring care plans to meet people's specific and holistic needs. That's pairing people with things like home care, adult day services, medical equipment and supplies, and home delivered meals, things like that. And then there's that last path. It's making sure that we do our part to advocate for the rights and benefits of older adults. You'll see advocacy in the Older Americans Act everywhere, and so we take that role seriously. That includes things like the ombudsman program for those people that have complaints and are in long-term care settings, and our Older Adult Protective Services Unit, where we do investigate elder abuse. So we will get those calls from individuals that are at risk for abuse, neglect, financial exploitation, and abandonment, and we'll investigate that, mitigate the risk, and then try to put supports in place. So again, we're one of 52 in the state of Pennsylvania. You can find a area agency on aging anywhere across the state, the country. We are fortunate here in Pennsylvania because not only do we receive federal dollars through the Older Americans Act, but we receive state dollars from that Pennsylvania lottery. You probably remember those commercials with Gus.
Yes, yes.
So it's true. Gus does support older adults in the state of Pennsylvania. And then, of course, here in Philly, we support over 140,000 older adults annually with over 30 programs.
So, you know, it's interesting because as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about PCA, who I have a long, long relationship with, personally and professionally. But is it correct that the PCA is the largest area agent in the state of Pennsylvania?
That's true. We're the largest in the state of Pennsylvania, and we're the fourth largest in the country.
Really?
We are.
And let's dial it back a minute because I understand the lingo, but you mentioned the ombudsman program. Go a little deeper. What does that mean?
Sure. So for those individuals that are in long-term care settings, if they have complaints that they really just need that advocate to address those complaints, big or small, they can contact our office and we then connect them to our ombudsman program. So they'll address those complaints, interview the older adult in that long-term care setting, oftentimes work with the facility to make sure they rectify those concerns or complaints. If it's something that's a little bit more significant that rises to our concern of older adult protective services, the ombudsman will then pass the case off to our older adult protective services unit to do the investigation if there's any concern of abuse as well.
Do you hear that, aging community? You do have an advocate. One of the biggest complaints that we hear professionally is that, you know, sometimes older adults feel dismissed. And if you have somebody to advocate for you, meaning a family member, a church member, somebody from your village to go with you to a doctor's appointment or to tenant landlord scenarios, you know, it's great. But there are a lot of people out there that are aging that don't have an advocate. And that's why I asked you about it.
Yes.
Because that's one of the biggest things. They don't listen to me. They didn't listen to me. And so we find ourselves directing people to PCA all the time, just because of that. Tell me about your path to PCA, because you've been doing aging for a minute. You've been around.
It's been a little bit now. Yeah, it's been a minute. So I think I really followed the path of my mom. My mom was a social worker her entire career. She worked with children her whole career, and I remember just as a little pipsqueak, you know, we would go to my grandmother's house, and she'd say, "Well, before we go take out the trash." Najja, I'd take out the trash. We go to my grandmother's neighborhood. She'd say, "Well, while we're here, go stop and see Mrs. Jones and see Mrs. Johnson. Go knock on their door, ask them if they need their trash taken out." I'm like, "Oh, Mom, you made me take out the trash. Oh, I got to take out the trash here too."
Everybody.
Right.
The village.
Right, but she was planting those seeds as I was a pipsqueak. And so I remember that day when I was at Morehouse and I was unsure what I wanted to do. You know, do I want to, major in business? Do I wanted to major in biology and think about medical school? And I just said, the light bulb went on. I said, I want to follow her path because she's planted those seeds for me to really give back to the community. So graduated from Morehouse with a degree in psychology.
Okay.
Started off working with behavioral health consumers and children, like my mom. And then it was the relationship that I had with my grandmother that I knew that this was the population I really wanted to support. So took a step back, started working for the Area Agency on Aging in Bucks County, where we originally met.
Yes.
And worked my way up through the ranks there at that agency, becoming the agency's director. While I was there, I received my MBA from Drexel University, and then came to PCA in 2017 as the Chief Strategy Officer. While at PCA, I received my doctorate in business administration, so continued to further my education and quest for that learning, and so I've been continuing to try to do my part to support older adults in different ways here as well.
Your path and my path are so similar. Because my mom started really young, I had the benefit not only of my grandparents, I had the benefit of my great-grandparents. In fact, my first babysitters were my great-grandparents.
Yes.
So now fast forward to now, when you think about dealing with the older community, I'm always at home with them. Because they tell you what it is. There's no shucking and jiving.
No.
There's no pretension. They keep it. Young people say keep it 100% real.
That's right.
Older adults keep it real. They tell you exactly where you stand. And I'm just going to ask you: are you going to homecoming this year from Morehouse?
I really wish I could make it this year, but I know next year I'm going to make it. And let me tell you, it's about to, my son is 13. It's about time for me to start taking him.
Okay. Yes. Talking about planting the seeds.
Plant the seeds.
I'm not going to hate on you a little bit. Virginia State, but it's all good.
HBCU brothers, that's okay.
HBCU, the bands at homecoming is something special.
Yes, they are.
They make the homecoming for me at least.
Yes.
We've had a few important elections over the past year. what does Governor Shapiro's administration taking office mean for PCA?
Well, we're excited about Governor Shapiro taking office. To start, he's already in his budget proposed some things to strengthen supports to older adults. So that's certainly a win for us. He started the tone very clearly saying we want to make sure we're doing more to support older adults in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So to start off with, his budget aligns with making sure that he's trying to support more people with the rent and property tax rebates. He's looking to support 170,000 more older adults in the rent and property tax rebate program. Also, he's allocated or suggested that there be additional allocation to the area agencies on aging offices, an additional $10 million in his budget that would do a lot of good with helping us support people in the community. So he's already started to start the path with really supporting and strengthening his support to older adults. We have a new Secretary of Aging, Secretary Jason Kovulich. We're excited about Secretary Kovulich, who was just recently confirmed. He's from the AAA network as well. He was, prior to becoming secretary, he was the AAA director, the Area Aging Director for Lackawanna County. So we're excited about him taking that on.
Because he knows the walk. He
knows
what's going on.
That's right.
And so it's always good to have somebody that's, I guess, homegrown in the area and aging, community.
That's right.
Because everybody think they know, but a lot of people, they don't know. So I'm glad to hear his name too. For a whole different reason.
Right.
Does PCA provide all services in-house, or do you contract with other organizations?
So there's some services we provide in-house, like the care management supports. We do have a meal distribution center, so the meals that are delivered in our home delivered meals program, we deliver them to the older adults that we support throughout the city. But we try to subcontract for a lot of what we do, a lot of what we do. It's really about strengthening those partnerships with stakeholders in the community and making sure that we're connecting with as many of the collaborative partners as possible. So some of those direct services, home care, adult day services, medical equipment and supplies, things like that, we won't provide in-house, but we will subcontract with our collaborative partners throughout the city to provide those services. So we probably have about 200 to 250 different contracts with different providers to help us do the great work that we do throughout the city to support older adults.
I'm a fan of PCA, and listen, you and I have a personal and a professional relationship, but we're both committed to seniors.
Yes.
And just to take it off course, I remember during COVID, we didn't stop.
Right.
We didn't stop. The home and community-based services, we could not stop. Some would consider us heroes, frontline heroes, and that kind of deal. But the level of commitment, I know that you guys were, you were connecting people to hot spots. I remember when that was going on. You had a whole network of people that were really trying to keep all of the information. And then back then, we were challenged to stay with the latest regulations from CDC.
Right.
What was going? Because that seemed like it'd be a moving baton. Like what was? What, as we found out more about COVID. Then ergo the needle, or what you could do and what you couldn't do, wear a mask, that kind of thing. PCA was just phenomenal, and I just want to say thank you. Because we do, it's no secret, Always Best Care is my company. We have a scope of practice, but there are a lot of things that come at us that are way out of our scope of practice. And one of them being, as I said earlier in the show, is advocacy, the Ombudsman program. And when we come back, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Najja Orr. But one of the things that I love about them is they have a multicultural outreach. So stay tuned. We're going to come back, and we're going to continue our conversation.
Did you know?
I may forget to take my vitamins or where I put my glasses, but I haven't forgotten that COVID is still out there and what it can do to someone our age. To stay protected, call your doctor and stay on top of the latest COVID news, boosters, and medication. Your doctors will help you understand what is the best way to take care of yourself. Because the best kind of care is self-care. At Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, we stand for older adults. We stand for you.
Let me help you with that, Mr. Smith.
Oh, thank you.
How did this get here?
You got one too?
Yeah.
Ah, new recruits? I'm sure you're wondering why you're here. This is our Elite Caregiver Super Training Center, and you two are the perfect candidates.
This is incredible.
I know, right? Ready to become an Always Best Care caregiver? Working for the best team with competitive pay? Join Team Green.
Always Best Care supports diversity. There's a hero in all of us.
Dad, you can't do this anymore. I think it's time to consider a nursing home.
But I don't want to leave my home, all my stuff.
But Dad,
Alva.
Always Best Care is here to help.
With Always Best Care, we come to you and do anything you need to continue living at home with our care.
You really are a hero.
Let Always Best Care take care of your loved one. Everyone deserves the best care, always.
Did you know? Come on, listen here. Did you know?
Welcome back to the Did You Know Show. I want to remind our viewers that you can catch me on Saturdays at 4 p.m. on WRD Radio. The Did You Know Show is centered around connecting people to home, community, and business resources that you ordinarily wouldn't know about. And certainly PCA kind of falls in that category. It's the largest area agent in the state of Pennsylvania, but a lot of people in Philadelphia still don't know about it. I'm sitting here with the Dr. Najja, who is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, and we're having a conversation. So Najja, you know, different organizations and programs identify the age of an older adult differently. How does PCA identify older adults?
So we generally follow the Older Americans Act, which identifies older adults as age 60 and over. Now, some of our programs will start a little younger, say 55. Some a little older, 62, 65, but generally, majority of our programs, we do follow those Older Americans Act guidelines and start at age 60.
And then, just for my knowledge, I think I know the answer. I'm pretty sure I do. How long has PCA been around?
Wow. So we have a historic milestone year this year. We're celebrating a birthday, a milestone 50th year.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, so we ask people to look on our website, pcacares.org, and you can find the things that we're planning and hosting throughout the year. We started partying from January all the way through December, so it's going to be a party all year. So we're looking to celebrate with people out in the community. So again, 50 years this year. Happy birthday to PCA.
Happy birthday to PCA. And so when you mention milestones, that's the PCA publication that comes out on a monthly basis. And you guys have your finger on the pulse of what's going on around the city and a lot of the activities going on.
Yes.
And so if you're looking at the bottom of your screen, you can look at the PCA website, pcacares.org, and certainly the phone number there. And I'm not going to recite it off his memory, but I think it's 215-765-9040.
That's
See,
right. That's right.
Test question, right? Because we give it out all day long. We give it out all day long as a resource. And so, we talked about it, but I want you to talk about how would you describe, you manage, I don't know what the infrastructure of PCA is these days, but certainly you have to have a leadership style that is inclusive. And I know you personally, but for the people that are watching, tell us about your leadership style.
So I would say, first I start with listening first, taking feedback, as much feedback as I can from folks. I would say my style is definitely collaborative.
Okay.
I want to bring the right stakeholders to the table, diversify the discussion as much as we can, and then, have a collective discussion and then make the right decision from there. And then I would certainly say that no matter where you're at in your career, always have a mentor. You could always benefit from those wise people who've been there and done that. I remember old deacon at my church once said, which I always still today resonates with me, once your elevator hits the top floor, always send it back down. So in addition to making sure you have those mentors throughout your career, look for those opportunities to mentor others as well. And then finally, I would say cultural diversity is in my DNA. It's something that I take very seriously. I've taken it very seriously my whole life. My mom instilled that pride in me and making sure that we try to diversify everything we do. So I bring that to work as well. So everything we do, I want to make sure we're doing it in a culturally sensitive manner. So that's in my DNA.
and I can co-sign that. I know it's a very inclusive environment. Off script, I can tell you that the outreach for PCA is multicultural.
Yes.
And to some degree, even though the focus is on older adults, to a certain degree, it's intergenerational too.
Yes. Yes.
Because you're showing a lot of people, especially with the family caregiver program,
Yes.
the different advocacy programs, people use the PCA knowledge as a resource.
Yes.
But that's just the beginning, because you still have to go out and really carry out the knowledge that you have. But you have outreach in how many languages?
Oh, at least every month I look at our reports and we're translating services in 20 different languages.
At least.
At least every month. Every month.
And that's one of the biggest outreaches. I always say family caregiving works the best for people that don't speak English as a first language.
That's right.
Because it stays in their culture and they're comfortable. Because it's hard first to admit that you need help in the home.
Right.
One. Two, when you can let somebody in that understands you, speaks your language and that kind of thing, it breaks down a lot of barriers.
Right.
And then it brings about a forum where they feel comfortable to be able to ask questions. A good friend of mine, Desi Neal, always says that it's one thing to be invited, but it's another thing to be included.
Right.
And
Wise words.
Very, very, and I continue to use them. So we talked about it a little bit, but how has the pandemic impacted PCA and the consumers you serve?
So in the beginning of the pandemic, when we got those orders to really pull back our social networks, we also were able to then shift initially for the first 6 months to a year to doing things remote. So a lot of our calls were phone calls instead of the face-to-face visits.
Right.
We did as much as we could virtually. We asked the senior centers to transition to doing virtual programming, which they're still continuing today, even though we're at a much better place than we were. So a lot of those lessons learned and things that we added, we want to keep those pieces. But again, we're now at a place where people are starting to stretch their wings a little bit more and come out a little bit more. So we're encouraging people to make sure that they get back to the senior centers. They reconnect with those social networks. And so for us, it means we're back out in the field. We're promoting those face-to-face interactions where we can. But again, keeping those programs that can be virtual as another option as well for folks.
So if we've heard federal, state, and local officers express concerns about their budgets, including the recent potential for the budget ceiling negotiations to stall. Would stalled negotiations regarding the budget ceiling affect your agency and older adults?
It would. So we're hoping for a speedy resolution to this debt ceiling potential crisis. I think where people will start seeing it first would be in those potential Medicare payments to doctors. So those payments could potentially be at risk. Next, for those individuals that are receiving Social Security payments, they could potentially see it as well. Those payments could be at risk. And then those federal dollars that we talked about from the Older Americans Act that fund the state dollars, they would potentially be at risk as well. So we're hoping for, again, a speedy resolution in this, because for those states that are not in the position where they have robust lotteries or other funds that are supporting their Older Americans Act programs, they're at risk for the state's dollars drying up faster. So again, we reach out to our stakeholders, our community partners, our local elected officials to see what we could do to help facilitate the conversation and make sure we move to a speedy resolution.
What I like about PCA, again, is that you a lot of times break the issues down into plain, easy to understand language. I know that, we can talk about that. Let's pivot a little bit. Yes. Because it's my understanding that you have to make, for instance, the waiver program contracts, you have to make that easy enough to understand for people at a fourth grade language. And that's still the goal.
That's the goal.
And so, and with a lot of these issues, sometimes they don't understand what the direct impact is, nor they understand the overlying issues and who's in control of making these decisions.
Right.
What I like about PCA, in your milestones, you always have a well thought out article or two on the issues. Kudos to your marketing department. Your marketing department, your public relations department, the people that handle the milestones are cutting edge. Because I am in the aging space, but there are a lot of people that kind of evolve and grow into it that really don't understand all of the components of it. And in PCA, I could do you guys commercial. Because a lot of times we find ourselves, intentionally directing people to you because a lot of things come at us out of our scope of practice for PCA. What are the hours of operation?
So we're generally here from 8:30 until 5.
Okay.
But again, any questions, any concerns people have, feel free, especially if it's an older adult protective services question, 24/7, 365. And there's other ways to contact us as well. Go through our website, pcacares.org. People could submit electronic requests for us to contact them. And again, you mentioned our milestones publications. If you haven't read our milestones, please, please, please check out our milestones. It's about 70,000 individuals that read it each month. But our survey a few years ago told us that it reaches about double that as far as readership. So there's a number of different ways to contact us. But any questions, again, our helpline number, 215-765-9040. Do not hesitate to call us regarding any questions or concerns regarding older adults.
Let's take a quick break, and we're going to come back on the other side and continue our conversation with Dr. Najja Orr. Please do not go away.
Did you know?
At Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, we stand for teachers, cashiers, factory workers, and bus drivers. We stand for moms, dads, grandmothers, and your great uncle Lionel, too. We stand for older Philadelphians and people with disabilities. For 50 years, PCA has helped people stay connected to loved ones and the communities where they live. We're here to provide information, care, and security. We are Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, and we stand for you.
Dad, you can't do this anymore. I think it's time to consider a nursing home.
But I don't want to leave my home. All my stuff.
But Dad.
Alva.
Always Best Care is here to help.
With Always Best Care, we come to you and do anything you need to continue living at home with our care.
You really are a hero.
Let Always Best Care take care of your loved one. Everyone deserves the best care. Always.
Let me help you with that, Mrs. Jackson.
Oh, thank you, dear.
How'd this get here? You got one too?
Yeah.
Ah, new recruits? I'm sure you're wondering why you're here. This is our Elite Caregiver Super Training Center, and you two are the perfect candidates.
This is incredible.
I know, right? Ready to become an Always Best Care caregiver? Working for the best team with competitive pay? Join Team Green.
Always Best Care supports diversity. There's a hero in all of us.
Did you know? Come on, listen here. Did you know?
Welcome back to the Did You Know Show. I am sitting here with my good friend and colleague, and he's just he is just a consummate professional, and I've had the privilege of working with him and speaking around the country. We spoke together at the Area Aging. We spoke together for the American Society of Aging. I believe our topic was the growing number of male caregivers, specifically in the African American community, and we did it with our good friends Brian Duke and Louis Colbert. Louis Cole is one of my mentors, as I'm sure he's yours
as well.
Also a Morehouse grad, so I got a shout out to Louis Colbert. But I want to just ask you before we continue, is PCA hiring?
We are, yes. So we ask everybody to check out our website, pcacares.org.
Okay.
It'll give you a link to our HR department. We have a number of different positions we're hiring, including our care manager positions, including our older adult investigator positions. We're hiring some assessors. The assessors are the individuals that go out into the community and help us determine if the individual needs supports and the type of supports that we'll have them align with. So that's usually that first step. So we have a number of different positions. As far as supports that we support our staff, there's a number of different things. We do offer a retirement plan, competitive wages for folks. We're looking at bringing back now, since we're coming out of the pandemic, a number of different opportunities for professional growth and development. We've previously had things like Toastmasters.
Oh, wow. Remember Toastmasters?
Yes.
I did Toastmasters for a while. Do you have any intern positions or any potential
Great question. We're now at the point where we're starting to reboot our internship program. So
Okay.
we're really looking at, you talked a little bit about intergenerational a little earlier, so we're looking to reboot our internship program, working with those colleges and universities in our area. We're just in such a rich area with universities that we want to make sure we do our part to not only create that pipeline for people to come and work at PCA, but for the first time to be exposed to the aging network. Had I been exposed even earlier, I might have, from the beginning, from the jump, rather than starting with behavioral health consumers and with children, I might have started with the older adults as well. So, but we're looking at creating that pipeline. So we do have an internship program that we're bringing back now as well.
And interestingly enough, as you mentioned behavioral health, there's a lot of focus now on mental health.
Yes.
And I think there's going to be a lot of budgeted dollars, to address some of these issues, especially with all these mass shootings and these folks out here that probably shouldn't have guns, with mental health.
Yes.
So what are some basic tips that you typically provide to older adults that you support?
So, again, we're fortunate to have more than 30 different programs here that support people in the community, from those senior centers and those health and wellness programs to making sure we create volunteer opportunities. Again, that path is really just to ensure we're helping people stay engaged and connected to their communities. We want to make sure that we do whatever we can to reduce the risk of social isolation. And again, it's all about the village, keeping that village going. Then that middle path, again, is just making sure that we connect people to those supports and services that really will help them stay in their homes and community as long as possible. Whether people are starting to get to that place where they need a little bit of assistance with bathing, dressing, grooming, that's when we'll connect them to home care to really make sure, again, that they stay in their homes as long as possible. I know one day when I need the supports, I want to stay at home as well. So
As long as I can.
That's right. That's right.
Najja, tell us about some of the programs, and I'm going to pull it out because you didn't mention it. Celebrating the Age of Arts,
Yes.
Senior Strep Program,
Yes.
the faith-based community. Come on, give it to us, because that's
you read my mind. You read
Come
my
on,
mind.
give
This
it
is
to
a
us.
part of this is a part of that year annual celebration. So we're really just making sure that from January all the way through December, we continue the party going. So, every September/October, we do our senior strut where we're down on Boathouse Row.
Yes.
Not only do we have a party and have a DJ out there, have health and wellness opportunities, a day of education, food. Oh my goodness, the food.
Line dancing.
You know it.
It's a whole thing. And the seniors are looking for, they come in busloads.
Yes.
I think they give SEPTA a run for their money. The CCT, they coming out there, and I don't even know the history of that, but you have kind of the vendors out there providing all kinds of access to different programs, from LIHEAP to, oh my God, SAGE training. I mean, it's such a powerful outreach that I don't think a lot of people know about. But tell us about celebrating the arts, because you do that 3 times a year, I think, right?
Once a year, but we've been trying to expand it. When I say expand it, now we have several locations throughout the city where the artwork is spotlighted. But we also have it on our website. So for those individuals who has not had an opportunity to go to those sites, whether it's the library on the Parkway or go to any of the senior centers that's spotlighting some of that work, then go to our website, pcacares.org, and you could see all of the artwork. This year we were fortunate. We had 145 artists.
Wow.
145 artists ranging from ages 55 to 98.
Wow.
Yes. So we had 9 artists that were age 90 and over, and 30 that were age 80 and over. And let me tell you, I'm still on stick figures, so I'm trying to find that mentor to help me transition.
Paint by number,
you
maybe.
Know it. You know
oh
it.
my
you know
goodness.
It.
So now that we are approaching the summer, how does PCA and the city plan for supporting older adults at risk for severe heat exposure?
Oh, great question. So we take the heat and cold very seriously. So in the summer when those temperatures start to heat up, we work with the city very closely. We ask people to contact our office at 215-765-9040. When the city calls a heat emergency, we also jump into action working with the city, and we identify those locations that will stay open a little longer as cooling sites. So we have a list of senior centers. Oftentimes there'll be libraries. There'll be other locations throughout the city that we work very closely with the city to to coordinate to make sure that they are those open cooling sites for people to go to if they're a little warm in the city. We're thinking of a few pilot programs that we'll be able to share in the near future that we're hoping to bring some things a little bit closer into people's homes very soon as well.
Weren't PCA doing box fans or something like that?
We were, and every now and again, we're still able to provide some of those fans. So again, don't hesitate to give us a call, and we could see if we do have some fans available to get out to people. So those are some of those things that we're looking to really be a little bit more innovative and creative and do a little bit more of going forward.
PCA, Philadelphia Corporation Agent, is wondrous, real support to the older adults in Philadelphia. If you don't know about PCA, you certainly should go to the website, which is listed right below our screen, pcacares.org. Najja, are there any key initiatives that PCA is working on that you can share? I know you guys are kind of behind the curtain to the last minute. I know you always got something going in the pipelines. Is there anything that you can share?
Yeah, so we certainly always like to share information about our 4-year plan. And when people look at our website, they'll see our 4-year plan, which talks about strengthening things like diversity, making sure that our programs are culturally diverse in how we provide them, making sure that we look at our data even better so it helps us and make informed decisions about how we should shape our programs a little differently, making sure that we strengthen our older adult protective services program in the city so that way we can mitigate and eliminate that risk for elder abuse. So you'll see things in there about our 4-year plan when you look at our website. We're also looking a little bit longer term. Our 4-year plan is required by the feds in the state. We're also saying that now it's time for us to look at those short, mid, and long-term goals up to 10 years and how we should really look at ways that we could strengthen the community even more beyond the prescriptive ways that we're asked to do so in our 4-year plan. So that will be coming out in the next few months. Our more prescriptive, longer-term plan, people will see that. And again, we ask our stakeholders, our friends, our family members, our colleagues to come join us for our public hearing. This year's public hearing is going to be June 21st.
Where at?
We're going to host it here at PCA.
June 21st, y'all heard it. June, so mark your calendar.
That's right.
June 21st, the public hearing. A lot of times people don't know what goes on there, but Najja, break it down for us.
That's right. So June 21st at 9:30, we ask people to register ahead of time so we know that you're coming to see us. That's our opportunity to really talk about what we saw over the last year, what we project to see over the coming year, any challenges that we've seen and foresee, and really just kind of really talk through some of the things that we anticipate from the feds and the state. So it's really an opportunity for a collective dialogue and discussion. And again, we want to hear from folks. Tell us your concerns, tell us your thoughts. We generally give people an opportunity to testify at our hearing as well, which we record that and take that into consideration as we're planning the next year.
Wow. And so the options program, we haven't talked a little bit about that, but I want to talk about the options program.
Yes.
And that's funded by the state lottery. I think a lot of people that don't qualify, probably because of the income requirements, look towards the options program. Can you give us the elevator pitch, if you will, on how that works?
Sure. The options program is just one path towards receiving supports and services in the community. Community Health Choices, the former Aging Waiver Program is another path. But again, whether it comes to one program or another, we tell people, just give us a call, let us come on out to do an assessment, and then we will then tailor a care plan to meet your specific needs. For most of the people that we serve in the options program, they pay nothing for their services because the lottery dollars, they do cover majority of the supports for those older adults, and that's where we pair people with things like the home care, the adult day services, and home delivered meals, things like that. But again, it's specific to each individual.
And are you guys doing anything with the Alzheimer's Association?
We always look to partner with the Alzheimer's Association. We know you host a walk every year, so yes. We always try to come out in droves to support the walk. Again, any opportunity, Alzheimer's Association, AARP, any collaborative partners and stakeholders, we're there to, at their front door saying, how can we help?
It's interesting. I was invited. I'm on the board for the Alzheimer's Association for the Delaware Valley chapter. And they invited me, and that's probably why I don't have the best voice now. They invited me to lead the march from just 4th of Market to 8th of Market, where the CMS is for Philadelphia branch, right? And so I can tell you what, it's a big deal when you're marching and you're chanting and you're walking. And I had the foghorn, and we want access, we want it now. One of the issues for Alzheimer's, as we pivot a little bit, is that a few of the FDA-approved drugs have not been approved by CMS to be dispensed to Alzheimer's people. And so I think they're saying statistically 2,000 people transition to a higher stage of Alzheimer's where they're not eligible for those drugs now. And so these drugs that are FDA approved slowed down the effect. So that probably won't be the focus on June 21st for the PCA conversation. But I know one of the conversations that will. I'm going to put you on the spot right now, Najja. But people always ask us, am I going to lose my home? Am I going to lose my home? I'm sure you guys hear it all the time. For waiver, for the waiver service now, Community Health Choices, there's two main components. You have the financial assessment and you have the physical assessment.
Right.
For options, I'm thinking that it's kind of the same thing, but it's also a needs-based kind of a deal. What's that thing about the house and the housing situation? Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. So those programs that we provide through PCA, the options program you mentioned earlier, that are paid for by lottery dollars. We do ask people when we're doing that comprehensive assessment if they could share information about a little bit of everything. We do ask information about income and assets, but again, that has nothing to do with your house. We just want to know what portion of the lottery dollars are going to pay for your services in the community. Community Health Choices, people, again, we hear that all the time. Am I going to lose my home if I go this Community Health Choices pass? And those services are paid for by Medicaid, the Department of Human Services dollars. So there is that language in there you'll see, subject for potential for estate recovery. So if somebody won the lottery right before they passed and received Community Health Choices services, there's the chance that they could say, hey, wait a minute, $15 million in the bank at your passing when you may not have had that when you first started in the program. We may want to, just evaluate. But again, I haven't seen a situation where people have lost their homes. We ask people, if you need the services, contact us. We'll start the assessment, and whether it's the lottery funds or whether we direct you over to the Community Health Choices program, that's where we direct people. A little bit more specific about Community Health Choices, those individuals are nursing facility clinically eligible, means they're eligible to live in a facility, but they want to stay in their homes and community as long as possible. Okay. And then also those income guidelines we look at as well.
Wow. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and we're going to conclude our show. It's been wonderful talking to you. And just like when you have a good guest full of information, time goes by so quickly. But we're going to take a quick break, pay some bills, and we're going to come back on the other side and continue our conversation with Dr. Najja Orr. Please don't go away.
Did you know?
I may forget to take my vitamins or where I put my glasses, but I haven't forgotten that COVID is still out there and what it can do to someone our age. To stay protected, call your doctor and stay on top of the latest COVID news, boosters, and medication. Your doctors will help you understand what is the best way to take care of yourself. Because the best kind of care is self-care. At Philadelphia Corporation for Aging, we stand for older adults. We stand for you.
Let me help you with that, Mr. Smith.
Oh, thank you.
How did this get here?
You got one too?
Yeah.
New recruits? I'm sure you're wondering why you're here. This is our Elite Caregiver Super Training Center, and you two are the perfect candidates.
This is incredible.
I know, right? Ready to become an Always Best Care caregiver? Working for the best team with competitive pay? Join Team Green.
Always Best Care supports diversity. There's a hero in all of us.
Dad, you can't do this anymore. I think it's time to consider a nursing home.
But I don't want to leave my home. All my stuff.
But Dad.
Alva.
Always Best Care is here to help.
With Always Best Care, we come to you and do anything you need to continue living at home with our care.
You really are a hero.
Let Always Best Care take care of your loved one. Everyone deserves the best care. Always.
Did you know? Come on, listen here. Did you know?
Welcome back to the Did You Know Show. Again, I want to remind you that you can catch me on the radio at WURDradio.com on Saturdays at 4 p.m. The Did You Know Show is centered around connecting people to home, community, and business resources that you ordinarily wouldn't know about. And you'd be surprised how many people don't know about the Philadelphia Corporation of Aging. Always surprises me how many people don't know about it. I'm sitting here with Dr. Najja Orr, who is the president and CEO of the organization. Najja, I want to ask you, when PCA is planning key initiatives, how do you determine which programs or initiatives will be prioritized?
So this is an area that we just mentioned a few minutes ago. We talked about our public hearing, which is this year is going to be June 21st, so we can hear from the community. As we're planning for that next year, then we make sure we take that collective conversation and help us in planning. We also look at needs. So there's some areas that the feds and the state ask us to prioritize, making sure that we always focus on older adult protective services to eliminate that abuse, making sure that we're constantly focused on ways to have people stay connected to the community to prevent social isolation, making sure that we're pairing people with nutrition programs. So, because oftentimes the nutrition component could determine whether you're in and out of the hospital a lot. You get out of the hospital, you don't have a healthy meal, you're right back in the hospital because it exacerbates a lot of those other complications that you have. So we're just, in some instances, asked to prioritize certain programs, but we like to listen and then make sure that we take need first and then go from there.
And then what are we doing in the faith-based community?
Again, you know, when I talk about cultural diversity, again, it's a part of my DNA, and I'm just so pleased that I found my home here at PCA, where we do a lot.
It's a natural fit, by the way. I know that it is. When you see somebody like you, I know your background personally.
Yes,
so I know when you say cultural diversity, okay, I'm sorry, I had to jump in. I had to co-sign it real quick.
Thank you.
But go ahead.
I appreciate that. Again, I'm just so pleased at the teams here. You know, we have several programs that focus on cultural diversity. So we have our agency advisory council, our general agency advisory council, which we're required by statute to have an advisory council. But we've gone a few steps above and beyond that. We also have Hispanic advisory council. We have a Caribbean, African and Caribbeans advisory council. We have an Asian advisory council. We have an interfaith clergy advisory council. So we take those opportunities just to make sure that we're bringing in the right folks from the community to help us think through our programs, think through our next steps, and then again, that we're out in the community and working with them as closely as possible. So we do our best to really try to go a few steps above and beyond to really make sure that everything we do is culturally sensitive.
And again, I would imagine you answered it earlier in the show, but when you are obviously looking for diversity in your hiring patterns.
Oh yes.
You know, it's important. I know I am.
Yes.
You know, the more diverse. You know, as a minority business owner, and I can imagine as a minority leader, multicultural and intergenerational have become my priorities, as well as inclusivity. And the best way to do that is to invite folks and make them feel welcome. Coming into a diverse scenario. And it's just been my experience too, when you have diversity, it leads to a lot of creativity. A lot of things, you know, I find myself, you know, in between older folks and younger folks, because I guess I'm middle age, I gotta claim it and own it and live it. But the benefit of that is being able to kind of be the conduit of that conversation and creating that synergy. And that when people say now that cross-sectional, that intersectional kind of place where we come together with ideas that are ubiquitous to everybody.
That's right.
At PCA, you know, I think, you know, that there are a lot of things that my organization does, but one of the biggest things that we do on the continual, and I mean on the continual, is we direct people here. You know, because your team takes the time, and you have the script probably of frequently asked questions, like you so eloquently answered about the housing scenario. But you also do, you didn't mention it, but I'm going to go ahead and say it, heavy cleaning. Heavy cleaning is a big thing. Used to be, about maybe 10 years ago, you know, maybe not that long ago, we were really dealing with the bed bug epidemic. Remember that?
Oh, yes.
And now, you know, now we're dealing with COVID. You know, and I'm really scared to think what we're going to be dealing with before. But the reason why we were able to address it ongoing was because of organizations like PCA. You guys became the conduit of information that you siphoned from CDC, and you kind of interpreted into plain, easy to understand language. You were on the front row of getting us access to PPE. That was not easy. I mean, who would ever thought that we'd have been really bartering for hand sanitizer and masks? But that was our world for a while. PCA and the other area agents were really at the top of that. Najja, as we wind down the show, you know, what are some of the things, before we close, what are the last points that you'd like people to know about PCA? I mean, we've talked about not everything, but, you know, some of the things that we probably missed. I'm going to say it again, PCA is hiring. Go to the website, pcacares.org. But what are some other things about maybe that we should know, that people should know about PCA?
Sure. So I would say that, as you mentioned a little earlier, you all didn't stop during the pandemic, so we can't. We want to make sure that we're continuously working with our collaborative partners and our stakeholders in the community just to really do what we can to provide those supports in the community, making sure we're listening to our stakeholders, whether it's our community-based organizations, intergenerational programs, you know, again, we are strong supporters of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and supporters of LGBT programming to make sure that we support all communities diverse as far as wide as we can. And then finally, I would say that, again, you mentioned we are hiring. So we're looking at bringing aboard PCA staff members to come join the family. For those individuals that have any questions, any concerns, any thoughts as it relates to older adult, don't hesitate to contact our office at 215-765-9040 or reach us at pcacares.org. Again, any question, there's no question too small or too large for us to assist. If it's not us, then we'll make sure we get you to the right agency that'll support you.
And you are resurrecting the intern program. That's what I'm talking about.
Yes, we are.
You know, whether you're HBCU, I mean, Philadelphia is a college town.
Yes, it is.
You know, do you guys have any scholarship programs, or is that something maybe down the road that maybe we can look into?
We actually do. We do provide tuition reimbursement.
Okay.
So that's one of our things that we have people go through with our HR department when they become a part of the PCA family. So absolutely, we do provide some tuition reimbursement as well.
Wow. And so, you know, we're downtown. Well, I don't know if this is downtown. This is North Philadelphia, 642 North Broad Street. We talked about the milestones. The milestones come out every month. Yes. How can people find out more about the milestones? Is that published online too, or is that it's a free publication?
Right.
And but if you go to pcacares.org, you can probably find out one of the distribution centers. Najja said that it was 70,000, you know, distribution, and you said double. I'm going to be as aggressive to say it's probably more than that. We just don't know about it. Because I look, you know, one of the biggest things that I look at the publication, and when I get it, is the calendar.
Right.
What's going on? You know, do we have anything going on for the summer program? I mean, anything going on in the summer that we want to say that's going on in the calendar?
Oh, all kinds of things happening in the summer. Check us out, pcacares.org. But again, I know that as we're planning for the fall, we're looking forward to that senior strut coming up. Again, please, for those who are not able to get out this month, the month of May, to check out the artwork, please check out our website. But then we'll have all kinds of activities all year round, even if not in our building, but at the senior centers and throughout a lot of our partners. So please check out our website and check out milestones. We'll see a host of different events that are being scheduled all month and all year long.
And I know I'm going to get this question, you know, we get on the radio show all the time. But how does, you know, you mentioned, I think you said like 140 artists that you have now that you're featuring.
145.
145.
Right.
I was listening.
That's right. You were.
I was listening. How does one if you're interested in being an artist,
Right.
how does one do that? You go to your website and sign up, or
Come to our website. You could
Okay.
say you want to be a part of the next year's program, or go to one of the local senior centers and say you want to start participating in the art there. And then we work with the senior centers as well to make sure that that art is a part of the next year's program.
it has been my absolute pleasure, really sitting here talking to. I consider him a friend.
That's right.
His energy, I can sit down and have a conversation with him. I've had the benefit of being able to speak around the country with him, with our mentors. I've seen him in action. I've seen him change chairs. It's always good when you see somebody that is a good leader, a forward thinker, a progressive planner, somebody like you, really in the seat to make decisions and to guide decisions and to really spark that communication. So thank you. I know your dance card is full. Thank you for taking the time to come on the show. I really appreciated it. Again, check us out. The Did You Know show is centered around connecting people to home, community, and business resources. You can check your guy out on Word, WRD Radio, either online at word.com, or you can go 96.1 FM or 900 AM on Saturdays at 4 p.m. Thank you, and have a great, great summer.
Did you know he'll help you understand? Did you know always a right-hand man? Did you know he's gonna make it clear? Did you know? Come on, listen here. Did you know